So my name's Marjolein and I'm married to Peter. And Peter passed away in August, a couple of months ago. It's now November 2019. And what happened is that he was diagnosed with ALS in March 2016. And in retrospect, he already had some signs that things were not right. He developed a drop foot. His right foot didn't work well anymore, just didn't do what he wanted it to do. And he was a karate black belt, and he was fighting in tournaments, and he was at a tournament where someone blocked his kick, and that hurt his ankle, his right ankle. So we thought that this drop foot was the result of a karate injury. And that injury started in 2015. So in retrospect, his ALS was affecting his mobility a little bit longer. And that's also something that is kind of characteristic for ALS, that it takes about a year before people are diagnosed with the disease. And the way that ALS is diagnosed is, there's not a real test or so you do. What happens is that doctors rule out anything else. And when they kind of don't know what you have, then you get the diagnosis of ALS. So, of course, that was absolutely devastating. And so that's happened in March 2016. And Peter's progression was gradually and very predictable also. We started to see a pattern. We went to so it became clear at Scripps that they could not treat him. Well, it's an untreatable disease, so it's, it kills you. And the prognosis is 3 to 5 years. So, that's very nerve-wracking when you hear that. But doctors can do things, to manage the disease or to manage the symptoms you have. Slowly but surely, he lost control and also movement in his right leg. That went to his left leg, and then it went up to his right arm and his left arm, and finally his upper torso and his lungs. And that's how he passed away also, because his lungs and throat muscles were affected. So he couldn't swallow really well anymore. His lungs were filling up with fluid. And thank God we were able to bring him home after 2 weeks being in the ICU. And that's when we also asked Dr. Bob's help, I think, about maybe just before we went into the ICU or when we were in the ICU. I think right before. And he was a tremendous help. Well, it became clear to us at a certain point, that Peter was very sick and that we couldn't handle his symptoms, the ALS symptoms. We couldn't handle them anymore without professionals. So we needed professional help. We already had caregivers and we had a nurse helping us. But in order for Peter to be safe at home, we needed 24/7 help. And so, looked on the web. And we're originally from the Netherlands, so also the way that healthcare is organized there, when someone is so sick like that, your GP is someone who comes home to you and who helps you with things and who will direct you to different medical organizations or professionals that you need at that time. And that's completely absent here. So we wanted to have access to a doctor, an MD, 24/7, who could help us, who could, first of all, show up when Peter needed an MD, and secondly, who could direct us to the right people that we needed at that time, the right professionals to do in-home medical care. And I just cannot tell you what that meant for us. When we contacted him, he came, and it made a difference right away. Because what is so wonderful about the integrated medical care, his company, is that they have organizations that they work with, and they have people that they work with. And since you have direct contact with him, he knows you, so he can kind of match you with people or organizations that are a good match. Because when we were in a crisis situations, we were in the ICU, so how many hospice care companies are there? I don't know how many, and I don't have time to go and sit there and figure that all out, what would be the best one. And even the care coordinator at the hospital, we were at the UCSD Thornton Hospital, even the coordinator there, they give you 3 or 4 different companies, and before you all figure that out, it's too late. You have to anyway. So he was great. It was wonderful. And with the disease Peter had and the things that happened the last 2 weeks of his life, we had different crisis situations that needed immediate attention. And I called Dr. Bob, and first of all, he picks up right away, and then secondly, he took care of things really well. Within minutes, called me back, or he came, right away. And Elizabeth is also someone who is wonderful. She is more someone who helps with getting all the organizations in order that you need. For example, we wanted Peter to come home at a certain point, and Elizabeth came. We talked about, what that would look like for us, what we thought we needed. She talked with Bob. He related to her what medically we all needed, and boom, there she goes. And boom, there we get calls, boom, people come, and that same day Peter came home. Well, he is, first of all, he has experience as an emergency doctor, right? So that was for us something that speaks for itself. So he's a professional and he has experience. So that's already by itself wonderful. So we trusted him. And then he's someone who is very kind, and he's clear also, but he's in control. And when you're not in control, he is. So I really like that. There were certain situations that I had a sense things were not in order, and he is a good listener, so that really helped. And then he made a plan with me, and that also really helped. And then he executed that and let me know, hey, I did this and this, so and so is coming, and it's gonna be okay. So, and that happened a couple of times. And what I love about Dr. Bob is that he knows when he needs to come in and when he needs to come in quickly and powerfully, and he also knows when he needs to withdraw, because you're in a crisis mode. And we were kind of gelling with our family around Peter and his illness, and also when it became clear that he probably would not have a long time to live. And Bob was very sensitive for that. When we needed time to just be together and talk with each other, or just be with each other or cry with each other. And when we needed some guidance and counsel from him, as an MD, and he's just a very empathetic and caring person. So that combination is good. He's a good professional, and at the same time, he's emotionally intelligent, so he knows. When you need help, he'll come in, and he also knows when he needs to step back, if you need some space, just to be with one another. Try to take a step back if you can, because when there's so much going on, you know that you're not yourself, and you can rationalize that, but you cannot completely feel that, and that's for a reason that you don't feel that. So it's a very hard balance to not go there and completely lose it, but at the same time you do have to be in tune with your intuition and your senses and your feelings in order to know what to do. So that's a little bit of balance, I would say. So I don't know if that's advice, but that's how it worked for me and for us. That you cannot do everything. At a certain point you realize you cannot save your loved one. You can't. But there are things that you can do. And for us that was being an advocate for Peter. But also, just being in it with him. So there were times to just be with him, because all the moments you have with your loved one while that person is still on this side of eternity, all these moments are very precious. And there are other things that you really don't have to do, because other people are better at that. And that's a release issue. You just have to release certain things. And one of the things is to not be in control, because you're not. You never are, but it becomes very clear when someone you love so much is passing away and you cannot do anything about it. You cannot fix that, but you can do other things. So I would say having that balance, first of all, and secondly, realizing what your boundaries are. You don't have to do everything, because you're not the expert, but other people are. That's where, Dr. Bob and Elizabeth came in. They are the experts, and they can do a way better job than I to rally everyone up and around so that things, are in place for Peter, or that way things were in place for Peter. He offers families or people who are facing their last journey, he offers his presence. So he offers to be there with them first of all as a medical doctor, and secondly as someone as a human being who cares for you. And I know that it's important for him that people are being treated with respect and dignity, and he safeguards that for you and your family. So I would say that that's what he does, and he's totally in it with you, together with Elizabeth. So that's something in my experience that sets him completely apart from other medical organizations. Of course, we had a very good relationship with all the specialists, and of course they came by, and certain people were great and went above and beyond. But I knew with Dr. Bob, when we asked him to help us with this, that he would be there, and that he would be in it with us. And he was the whole time. Also, you know, after Peter passed, he followed up, and I just knew that, he's just completely, boom, he kind of moves in, you know, he moves in the situation and he's there. Yeah.
Feels good though.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was very much a relief for me to know that he was in it with us. Peter was and of course I'm his widow, and we were married for 33 years, but we met each other at a very young age. So Peter was if I would summarize it, he was a brilliant, cool nerd and scientist and warrior. And he was very sensitive. He was a very well-rounded, powerful man. Very smart and gifted in many ways. So I'm very grateful that, you know, and we were unapologetically happy with each other. We really were. So also after his diagnosis. And Peter was a warrior, and I say that because he really was a warrior. So it's not like, oh, he was a strong guy, and he was. But, you know, when you are diagnosed with ALS, that is so devastating. And he was we had a very active lifestyle. He loved to hike and bike. He did a lot of karate. Yeah. So to lose all your muscle strength, that's devastating. But he never complained, never, ever. And every day was a new day, and we were trying to make the best of every day. And we decided early on that we said, well, of course this is devastating, but, you know, Peter is more than ALS. He was sick, and that was an aspect of his life, and that did have a deep, you know, impact on our lives. It still does, because we lost him to ALS. But we always said we're bigger than that, and we're more than that. We are not falling together with ALS. We're more than ALS. That will be an aspect of our lives, and it will stay an aspect. We're not going to sit under ALS. We will just live as much as we can and enjoy life as much as we can. So that was our focus for specifically the last years. And we never, you know, people, I remember family came and they're like, oh, do you have a bucket list, when he was just diagnosed? And Peter was like, no, I do. You know, we did everything we wanted to do, actually. We don't have that we want to do a trip around the world or go to India, or we just did what he had a very full life, let me put it that way. Very full. Yeah. And I'm going to brag about him, because he was a scientist, and he worked for a biotech company, and he was leading a project to develop a medication for cystic fibrosis, and he started with that about 15 or 18 years, I think 18 years ago. Yeah, when we moved, basically started to work on that. And they have 3 FDA-approved medications right now, and cystic fibrosis will probably be cured. So he helped find a cure for that, which is an incredible... Yeah, he really lived for a reason. Well, I want to thank Bob for being there when we needed him. And I just knew that he cared for us. And I knew he was there when we needed him. And that was so important in that time. You know, when you feel like the whole ground is disappearing under your feet, then he was there. And also he just made things work. And that was very refreshing for me. So I want to thank Bob for that he was always there. And you're just not used to that here in America, for an MD to just be in it with you, not only medically, but also to say, hey, how are you doing? Or, hey, let's sit down, let's have a talk about this. Yeah, so I'm grateful that he's there and that he does what he does.